DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow and Rotowire's Whalen are here to give their top plays for tonight's series opener between the Hawks and the Bucks. Guys, like I said, game one of the Eastern Conference Finals tips off tonight, and the Bucks are coming into game one as 8-point favorites over the Hawks. Do you think that spread is too high, Jules?
This is a tough one, right? The Hawks are so hot. They're overachieving. They are overachieving, but the question is, can they keep doing it? Atlanta's 10-4 against the spread in their last 14. Milwaukee has won 13 home games in a row. They have been good at home against Atlanta. They've won. Oh man, I already lost the number. They won a bunch of games at home in a row against Atlanta.
Nice.
So for me, I lean to the Bucks. Honestly, I know it's a huge number. But the Hawks are in a little over their heads. Milwaukee's been a tough place to play. From a matchup perspective, I think things get really difficult for Atlanta. Covering Giannis, it gets easier to play Brook Lopez with a guy like Capella on the floor. Chris Middleton's been fantastic in this whole postseason run. And for the Hawks, you've got a guy like Bogdanovic banged up. In the two regular season games that he played against the Bucks, he was playing 38 minutes per game. He was scoring 30 points per game and actually led Atlanta to a win over Milwaukee without Trae Young during that span. Now, obviously, Bogdanovic is banged up dealing with injuries. He's only averaging under 6 points per game in significantly reduced minutes over the last 3 games against Philly. You can survive against Philly because they're gutless frauds and Ben Simmons doesn't shoot in the fourth quarter. I don't think you can survive against Milwaukee. I kind of think that this one is a double-digit win for the Bucks.
All right, what do you think, Nick?
I'm with Julian here. I think he laid it out pretty well, where this number feels probably a little bit higher than it should be, just because even though Milwaukee got through round 2 against Brooklyn, that Brooklyn team obviously wasn't at full strength, and even the way that they won game 7, it kind of left you with a bad taste in your mouth. Like, is this team even actually good? They probably would have got swept in that series if Kyrie stays healthy. Certainly if Harden's healthy, that adds another element. But, here they are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And, I think Atlanta enters this series in somewhat similar fashion where I think you could feel better about the way they played against Philly. But you have these same questions as, did Atlanta steal that series or did Philly just completely blow it? So I feel like we still don't really know how to evaluate these teams, especially Milwaukee, because coming off of that round 1 win against Miami, I think their stock was as high as ever. I mean, a lot of people thought Miami was going to win that series. It wouldn't have been surprising if it went to 6 or 7 games, and Milwaukee just dominated it from start to finish. And then it's a completely different story in round 2. The offense collapses, and now we view this Bucks team completely differently. So I think Milwaukee has a chance to come out tonight and really set the tone. I mean, if they look like the team that we saw against Miami, that's up, 15 points in the first quarter. Bryn Forbes is running around, hitting threes. The ball's moving. I think they have a chance to really take control of this series and send a message that they're the rightful title favorites, which they are on the DraftKings Sportsbook right now. So, I'm with Julian. I think this is a game that's probably close in the first half, but Bogdanovic being injured, even if he plays, he's going to be hobbled. That's a huge, huge loss for an Atlanta team that needs every piece to beat the Bucks. So I will take Milwaukee to cover that number tonight.
All right, let's talk about the total. It's set at 226. Which way are you leaning here, Nick?
Man, this one is tough. Again, it depends on what we see from the Milwaukee offense. If it's the offense that runs one pick and roll, and then if it gets shut down at the free throw line, Drew Holiday backs it out and takes a contested long 2 over Kevin Huerter, then I don't know if Milwaukee scores enough points to hit this over. I think I am shading towards the under a little bit. We saw Milwaukee's offense play a little better against Brooklyn, but I still need to see it. And again, without Bogdanovic, I mean, you're taking away, the bona fide number 2 creator easily for the Atlanta Hawks. You have some nice pieces in John Collins and Clint Capella and even Huerter, who was great on Sunday in Game 7. But, those guys aren't necessarily creators, especially the 2 big guys. And it's going to be, everything's going to be on Trae Young tonight to create for them. And, I think there's kind of this misnomer about Trae Young's game where you watch him play and you assume he's like a 40% shooter from 3. One, he's not even taking that many threes relative to the last couple of years. And 2, I mean, he shot 32% in round 2 against Philly. So, if Trae Young's floaters aren't falling, if he's not able to get to the rack and get to the line effectively, I think Atlanta could have trouble scoring as well. So I will go under here in Game 1.
Jules, you want to take the under as well?
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning here as well. If you just look at the Hawks, they've gone under in 12 of their last 15, and their scoring options are only getting more thin as the postseason progresses. Um, Also, by the way, to redeem myself in the last segment, Atlanta has lost 7 in a row in Milwaukee, is what I was trying to say. Then you go to that Bucks series. The total in game one of Nets Bucks, we were expecting offense, 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 opened at 239 and a half. They went under in 5 of 7 games in that series. Milwaukee's offense has been a problem. I do think they find a little bit more offense against Atlanta. Like Giannis is going to have a much easier time. While you have to expend some energy covering Trae Young, you don't have to expend nearly the energy you do, trying to slow Durant, which didn't even work. There just weren't other options that could score for Brooklyn. Um, Game one scare me a little bit. Like we did see a lot of points between the Suns and Clippers kind of coming out of the gates, feeling each other out, and then an absolute grinder in that Tuesday night game. So if anything gives me cause for concern here, it's these two teams feeling each other out, and maybe we see a little bit more offense in game one. But I definitely lean to the under the way these two teams have been going.
All right, well, Trae Young, we've talked about him already. He's obviously the breakout star for the Hawks in the playoffs. His points prop for game one is set at 28 and a half. Jules, do you like the over there, or is there maybe like another Trae Young prop that works better for you?
Yeah, I don't. This is kind of again more of a feel out game for me. But if you made me play it, I would take the under, and those hurt to play the under on Trae Young. He can come down and get 3 threes in 4 possessions, and there's 9 points for you. But I think that Milwaukee is going to do what Philly did when Philly was having success in that series, and that was by putting Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle on Young and put length on them, and they certainly have that length. And at times we could see Giannis on Trae Young in this series, honestly. Not to mention Drew Holiday, who has the reputation of one of the best defensive point guards in the NBA. So I think they're going to have to make it really tough on Young. If Bogdanovich is out or limited, that probably means more shots for Young potentially, which just on volume can get you there. But yeah, I mean, Young only faced the Bucks once in the regular season, and he finished that game with 15 points in 37 minutes. So the Bucks are doing something right in that one. 28 and a half is a lot. We both said we like the under in the game, so that points a little bit more towards an under on a point prop. So that's where I would be leaning here.
Yeah, Nick, Jules mentioned that Young was only available for one of the 3 regular season matches between the Hawks and the Bucks. So what do you think? Do you want to take the under too?
Yeah, I do. I don't feel great about it by any means. I don't think Julian does either. Trae Young's gone over this number in 6 of his 12 playoff games so far. To me, it really does feel like a 50-50 type of proposition. It's going to come down to whether or not he's hitting threes, like I mentioned in the last question, and whether or not he can get to the line. I mean, if he gets to the line 19 times like he did in game 5 against Philly, then he's almost certainly going to go over that number. And if he hits 5 of 11 from deep, that's certainly going to go a long way toward pushing that as well. It's also going to depend how Milwaukee plays him. I do like Milwaukee's on-ball personnel, as Julian alluded to, guys like Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. I mean, they're like built to defend Trae Young, Holiday especially, and I really like his chances. But if they're running that high pick and roll at the top of the key, and Brook Lopez is not willing to come out there and meet him at the 3-point line and instead kind of drop back and backpedal, Trae Young's going to kill them in the mid-range, in the floater range. I mean, they had trouble stopping Bruce Brown on those type of shots in round 2. If you can't handle Bruce Brown in that range, you're certainly not going to handle Trae Young. So I need to see how the Bucks play defense on him. I would like to think they make those adjustments. At the same time, this is Mike Budenholzer we're talking about. There's been no sign of adjustments at all in the playoffs so far. But I'm with Julian. I'll play it a little conservatively and go under on 28 and a half.
I shot myself muted because my dog stole a water bottle and he's chewing on it and making really loud noises. So sorry if you guys hear that. But Nick, Giannis has a total points, rebounds, assists prop of 51 and a half. Do you think he hits that number?
I don't think he does. This is a strangely high number. And I like the matchup for him against Atlanta. It should be a little bit easier than Brooklyn and even Miami in round 1. But, he had 7 30-point double-doubles in 11 playoff games so far. And he's only gone over that number one time. And it was in game 7 against Brooklyn when he had that 40-point, I think it was 14 rebounds. And he played 50 minutes in that game, with the overtime period. And I don't think we're going to see the Bucks extend Giannis to that extent in the series until they have to. I think ideally they would probably love to keep him in like the mid to high 30s. I don't think we're going to see him like play every minute of the first half like he was at times against Brooklyn. So I think this is a kind of a strangely high number. I think it's playing on how well Giannis played in Game 7 against Brooklyn, but it's going to come down to the assists. I mean, he has a double-double in every single playoff game so far, but I think he went for 15 assists in Game 4 against Miami, and then averaged only 3.6 assists throughout the entire round 2 against Brooklyn. So if the assists come back, all of a sudden, it's very attainable for him to hit that over. But again, I need to see it, so I'll go under.
Jules, what do you think?
Yeah, I wanted to disagree with Nick on something, but I can't do it here. And the minutes are a huge reason why. So, like, first of all, let's look at Giannis once the Bucks' backs were against the wall. So down 2-0. Last 5 games of that series, 43, 38, 42, 41, 50 minutes. He played more because he had to. And, Coach Bud is dragged through the mud for not making adjustments. One, technically adjustment that he made is actually playing Giannis like superstar minutes like he wouldn't before. You go to games 1 and 2 of the series against Brooklyn, and I know game 2 was a massive blowout, but 35 and 31 minutes. So he's going to play less maybe in the beginning of the series, like Nick said, unless Milwaukee runs into any serious trouble. So less minutes right off the bat helps us out. And then you look at the 3 games against Atlanta in the regular season, he averaged just over 32 minutes in those games. So I think we see more, 35, 36, but still 24.3 points, 4.7 assists, 11 boards. That adds up to exactly 40, if my math is correct. So that's, 80%, less than 80% of the total that we need to get here. I'll still give Giannis a little more in the postseason, more minutes, more production, but I see this more around like a 45 to 48 type of range, which gives you the under. So again, not comfortable, just like with Trae Young, but I think this number's set too high.